Hello, this is Father Michael Nasser here from St. Nicholas Orthodox Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, here with this week's Midweek Reflection. And what I'm doing midweek this week and for the next two is actually, I'm going to supplement what I've been doing on Sundays, which is a 5-part series on the urgency and the importance of prayer. Because just about every Christian I know, if they're being honest, says, I don't pray enough. I know I need to pray more and I'm not. So we've been talking about that on Sunday. So if you haven't watched the sermon series, I think this Sunday is part 4 out of the 5. But 3 things I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to start with today, are 3 things that we need, 3 ingredients we need if we're going to be better at being more consistent with our prayer. And the first one, the one I want to talk about today, is really the most boring. I find that of all the advice I give in confession with regards to people strengthening their prayer life and praying more consistently, this is the one I give most often. And I almost always detect a little bit of disappointment because it's not all that exciting of a suggestion. And what's the suggestion? That we get better at scheduling our prayer. Now, adjusting one's schedule does not seem the most exciting thing to do when you're talking about a spiritual life, your relationship with God, and what motivates that. We think about schedules as things that have to do with sort of this day-to-day and work and tasks. Let's be honest, scheduling is boring. But scheduling and being effective at scheduling is one of the most effective things we can have to change our lives. The things that we don't plan for, we don't do. There's a funny saying about that, but I can't think of it right now. If you plan for nothing, nothing happens, something like that. Anyway, if we would think about how we schedule, what we schedule, and we'll talk next week about how we keep to that, but just scheduling it. In other words, if you're going to pray every day after you get up and after you have a cup of coffee, you put that in your schedule. Now, for some people, you want to have that literally in your schedule, written in your daily planner or on your electronic Google Calendar, whatever you use. For others of us, it's just basically knowing that happens every day and that we're going to keep to it. Why? Because we've scheduled it. People talk about how, well, I haven't really kept in touch with people. And I say, well, when do you plan to? When do you plan to call your parents or your grandparents or friends you haven't seen for a while? Well, I don't really have a plan. I said to them, have a plan. If you want to catch up and call more people and not just send Facebook messages or whatever, plan one day a week, maybe 1 hour during that one day a week, to call people you haven't called. Put on your schedule. Thursday at 5:30, call somebody I haven't talked to. Put it on the schedule. One of the beautiful things about electronic schedules, you put it as a repeating thing. Every week it'll come back. Call somebody I haven't called for a while. Scheduling these important things like prayer, and let's be honest, what is more important than prayer? What is more important than our connection with God? And prayer is so effective for that. But a lot of us don't do enough because we don't schedule it. We don't put the time in our schedules. For a lot of us, we think we have no time. Well, again, we have time when we schedule. So not a very sexy suggestion, not very exciting. It sounds very dull. But let's all think about how we can schedule our times with God. We schedule appointments with the doctor, for some people it's the lawyer, for some people it's the accountant, whoever we schedule appointments with. Why don't we schedule appointments with God? He's obviously much more important to the nth degree than anybody else. So let's schedule our time and let that be the first step in really becoming more consistent in our prayer. I know it's not the most exciting thing, but I think if you think about that in your life, I think you're going to be surprised how helpful scheduling your time with God is going to be. I hope you found that helpful, and if so, please share it on your social media platforms. And God willing, I'll see you in next week's video.